Sorry.
You'll do a lot, like an introduction.
Yes, and we are
Okay.
live, Janet. Welcome, welcome. I'm just pressing go live on the Instagram page as well to our audience there.
Excellent.
So, yes, Janet is calling all the way from Ohio, and we're really grateful to have her with us today. We just want to send apologies for our co host Jamila, who could not get out of a meeting that went slightly over. And so I'm really grateful to be sharing the space today with Janet. Our topic of today is going to be living in the now and empowering choices to overcome challenges and rediscover your true self. And so, interestingly enough, before we went live, we once again had some audio challenges. So, it looks like I'm going to need to get a tech guy to help me out once and for all so that in the now we can resolve the matter. But we carry on, don't we? We carry on. So, what are we doing today? We're going to delve into the power of mindful living and embracing the present moment. Discover how living in the now can help you navigate challenges with clarity and resilience, empower you to make intentional choices aligned with your true self, and unlock inner peace and self discovery from the inside out. So let's talk about Janet. Let's introduce a little bit about her. She will bring some unique insights and expertise today based on her own personal journey, I hope. And that will hopefully inspire everyone to let go of the past, stop worrying about the future, and find strength in the present moment. Janet is a trauma survivor, devoted wife, and mother of three. After facing her own challenges and struggling to find her place in the world, she discovered the power of healing and embracing authenticity. As a best selling author and certified coach, Janet is driven by her desire to help other trauma survivors and women facing life's hurdles. With her captivating storytelling, I cannot wait, and practical insights, she empowers listeners to find joy, love, peace, and fulfillment in their lives. Her goal is to continue inspiring others as a motivational speaker, building connections, and spreading her message of transformation. So, without further ado, I'm excited to have this conversation. I'm excited to learn from you and equally to unlearn what it is that we all need to unlearn. Often we assume it's just in the learning, but it's also in the unlearning. So, where did this journey start for you, and when did you take this call to adventure in the hero's journey?
Well, this adventure started when I was 20 years old. Um, I had just completed my second year at the Ohio State University, and I was excuse me, I was a music education major, and I was going to see my cousin who was a doctor because I needed a tuberculosis check for my summer job. And on my way there, well, a young lady decided to reach back and hit her boyfriend that had been pulling on her hair for a long time at that moment, went across the median trim and went on top of my car. And my car stopped, and obviously I didn't. And so um, I the guy in front of me knew that there was going to be a bad accident, and we were 3 minutes south of a highway patrol. He went there and he said, "Look, there was a bad accident. I didn't see it, but I know it was really, really bad, and you need to get help there immediately." And within 7 to 10 minutes, there was people EMS there, and then they ended up life flighting me to a hospital because I was already in a coma. And I was in a coma
Mm,
for 4 days and life support for 2 weeks. They played music around the like 24/7 because of being a musician, and that the neuropsych or the psychologist or the no, the neurosurgeon thought that that would probably bring me back before anything. So they had welcomed any of the students that I had been in ensembles with to come down and bring music that I had played in and share stories, and my mother was very adamant about not letting anyone into the room that wasn't positive. If you were not going to come in and be able to hold it together and be positive, you weren't allowed in. And and then that led me to eventually being able to go to inpatient rehabilitation, and I was there for 7 weeks and a day. And I was when I got released, because I had been in the Ohio State marching band my freshman year, and my high school co-student had been was playing quarterback for the Ohio State University at that time. The marching band squad leaders came and they gave me a send off, and I ended up getting on the TV, and it was like a big deal. And like I didn't know, but I was so excited. I was so excited that I was out. I was good enough to leave the hospital, but I had a lot to do yet. And then I went to college. I eventually got my degree, and then I got my degree, I got married, I had children, and all of those things, those 3 things, getting my degree, getting married, and having children, from the day that I was at the inpatient rehab hospital and they gave me my shower, and I knew that they were washing my body and I knew what they were doing, but I knew I couldn't do it because the left side of my whole body was paralyzed, and I just sat there and they took care of me, and I got out of the shower and I had to they had me in my wheelchair and they sat me by the window, and I had my come to Jesus moment, and I said, "Jesus, this isn't okay. I am 20 years old. I am not going to stay this way for the rest of my life. I did not come out of this to be like this for the rest of my life. I need you to help me." And he implanted in the seed in me that every day when I got up, I was just that day I was to learn one new thing. And at the end of the day, give thanks for that thing that I had achieved and be grateful. And I kind of used that for a theme through most of my life. And it was only when I started to get into mindset work. And I got into mindset work because I had tried to go back to work after the boys got in school, and I joined network marketing, and I was doing well, but the level that I wanted to achieve, I was always falling short. And I heard the theme of, well, everything you want to achieve, it has to come from the inside out. And I had no clue what that meant. And I was determined to figure out, what is this? What do you mean from the inside out? Well, that started a journey in itself, which led to me getting more coaching after I had a little bit of coaching into more coaching, and then from being a coach or getting coaching into wanting to be a coach, because I saw and experienced the empowerment of what was going on with what I was doing. And I just think I think it's the coolest thing in the whole wide world, how we can help people and how they're thinking and how they're speaking to themselves to find empowerment, to make a choice that's in alignment with what you want to do and what rides on your heart. And just it's uh, it's like it's like candy every day. I learn and I implement. I learn, I implement, I teach. And it's just a nonstop. And I know I'm signed up for life, and I'm okay with that.
I am already captivated, to be honest. I am listening to and holding on to every one of your words that you are using. And how many years ago was, I mean, I'm asking you to give your age away. I hope you don't mind. If this occurred at age 20, how many years later is it?
It is
And then I
30
want to,
it's 32 years later. It'll be 33 this year.
wow. Well, in that experience, it sounds like there was an out of body experience. And in those
Yes.
moments, you know, getting the wisdom of coming into the center of the now, even in that experience. And yet you had the future state playing out, and you had what if I'm no longer here, the fear. So it's like the future, the current moment, the what would the past look like, all happening all at once. And so being able to get that insight in that moment and come out of it and giving thanks every day and being grateful, that is amazing, because it is the one thing that we are conditioned is to live in fear, is to worry about the future,
Mm-hmm.
and to begrudge the things that happen to us when it's actually happening for us in our favor. So,
I
at what point did you know? Because initially, when you woke up and life started to happen again, was there any resentment and grudges and like, why did this happen to me? Did you ever feel like, what was this meant? Why was this meant to happen to you?
initially I want to say no. Okay. I
Mm,
mean, yes,
mm,
when the mother of the girl that had hit me came, I think came to see me like within the first like few days of me being at the rehab hospital, and it was too much. It was too much for me to handle cuz I didn't understand what was going on with my body. Why I didn't understand.
mm,
And and it's, talking about the past and the future and how it all like everything molds. Um before my I have lost my mother since like 7 years ago, and but before I lost her, there was a summer we were putting up sweet corn and for the winter and that, and I looked at my mom and I said, "I don't know why, but I've been thinking about this." I said, "When her mother came, I wasn't very nice, was I?" And mom said, "No, you weren't." I
mm,
had to ask her to leave because it was just too much. It was too much. She just kept saying, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." And you didn't understand. You didn't understand yourself, let alone what had happened and what she was apologizing for. And it was irritating the crap out of you. And and it did. And also with that, what you were saying, I did have a near death experience.
mm,
And I know without, well, I'm going to say I know. I know
mm,
in my heart because I was in the paradise. And
mm,
it's funny when I say that, then how like the memory comes back, it floods back. Um
for sure.
it's so beautiful, but besides being beautiful and filled with light, it's filled with an unconditional love that is from God, which is which
Mm,
is what I believe in. And if someone else doesn't believe in God, I
mm,
respect you. But for me, I have to talk about God because that's who helped me. Jesus, I was thinking, I'm so tired. And I don't know what I
mm,
probably was fighting for my life. And Jesus went, "You're going to be okay." And I went, "Oh, okay." So then I kept going.
mm,
And,
mm,
and in that world, there is no time. There is no concept of time. The best analogy that I've been able to come up with over the years is the sand timers, the egg sand
yes,
timer.
yes,
Well,
yes.
well, up there when you turn it over, no sand falls because there's no time. So
Wow.
that could have happened within split seconds on the way. I have no clue, and I'll never know.
Mm,
But I know that well, many years later, um, I I wanted to go to adoration for church and pray, and then I wasn't gonna have time, and well, then God I was in the shower getting ready for a meeting, and God, like, literally obliterated my razor, and I was like, "Okay, I get it. I'll give you 5. I got 5 minutes, God." And, and so I went to church for 5 minutes, and within, like, a little bit of being there, the Spirit came to me and said, "You know that unconditional love you experience, and you feel that you are here to share?" And I was like, "Yes." "You're not going to be able to do that unless you accept you are a miracle."
Yeah,
That's
that's like take a breath. Take a breath.
because up to that point, yes, they had called me the miracle girl and, in different things, but I wasn't open to receiving that because I had, you would learn as you're growing up, miracles come at a high cost.
Mm,
And I thought I've already paid a lot. I don't I don't want to pay anymore. And
yes.
and then my friend's like, "Well, have you ever thought that maybe you've already paid and you just need to receive?" Well, then when the
And
Spirit told me that, I was like, okay, I will accept this. So, I mean, it's something that I I talk about when it feels appropriate. I only
mm,
talk about it when it's appropriate, when the Spirit is moving me to talk about it, because there's humility that needs to come with that.
yes. Mm.
It needs to be
But you see,
appropriately placed in time.
I agree completely because when we're going through these, it's a transition in whichever shape or form it comes, whether it's a near death experience, whether it is the loss of something, whether it is some form of grief that we have to go through, and that very dark experience that completely, can knock us in such a way that we start to question. And it's not easy to be on the receiving end, as your friend mentioned. Are you willing to receive the light? Because you've already been in this abyss. You've died a near death, but also a metaphorical death. So
Mhm.
when you come back, what is the wisdom? What is the insight that you've gained so that you could receive that in pursuit of the greater purpose for your life, right? And I
Mhm.
suppose, if was it a lady that mentioned this to you?
Yes, yes,
Yes.
yes.
So she was in the hero's journey of Joseph Campbell. It speaks about on our path to this transformative part of ourselves, we will encounter mentors and wise sages along the way. And so she happened to be one of those mentors or sages and even coaches that hold the sacred space for you, because
Mhm.
it is not easy to
Mm-mm.
see that, but
No.
others will show the mirror and reflect it back to us. At
Yes.
that point, when you were told to receive it, what were your next steps? How did you move forward in paying that forward to everyone else?
Hmm. Well, it did take that meeting with the Holy Spirit at church, which was probably a few years before I started to embrace that. And at that time, I was also giving talks to the junior religion class at our church, because and sharing my faith and how my faith had brought me through, because my family prayed around the clock, and my mom refused to believe that there was going to be anything that was ever going to keep me from doing what I wanted to do. And my my one dear friend from college, her and I, we have a really unique bond. We always know when we need to talk. Like we just get this feeling, and a sense. And what she saw and how she saw my parents pray and come together has impacted her through all of her life. And so I know that being humble and sharing it when because it's not every podcast that I get on that I share. I mean, I share like I said, when it feels appropriate.
Yes, yes. And so that's a sacred space and a safety and a trust that will elicit that conversation to just take place organically, right?
Mhm.
What I would like to ask you, when we're going through these difficult experiences, what I'm hearing you saying is it requires radical surrender. It's
Mm.
almost handing it over to God and
Yes.
knowing that it's happening for us in our favor, for the greater good of ourselves and for those that we will serve with this,
Mhm.
transcendence of what we had to go through. Because if we don't transmute the past experience, we can't transcend to the next level and be the recipient of receiving that light, that insight, that wisdom, which we then take forward. When did you discover then your calling in all of this? It happened at 20, the accident. It's
Yes.
33 years later, but when did your calling resonate for you?
Probably about 4 years ago.
Yeah, wow.
When I entered the mindset coaching world. I started
Mm,
out just getting one call or being able to have access to group calls with a group, and there was always a course every week that was put into the platform, and then you can take yourself through it, self-guided course, and then you hop on the
mm,
calls, and then we discuss the topic or the course of the week. And I was kind of leery of doing that because my experience with being a traumatic brain injury survivor is when I would go into the group thing, I'd end up being the cheerleader. and and not that that's a bad thing. God bless you. Not that that is a bad thing, but I was filling everyone else's cup and I wasn't receiving. So I kind of drug my feet. But then once I tapped in and I realized what kind of environment this group was and what the group call was, like a fire lit. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest stuff. And then I was getting one coaching call a month that I could meet, that I could have a one on one with a coach for a half hour. And I remember, I can remember where I was in our house here. And I learned that what ego was, because I grew up believing that ego was is that you thought you were better than other people. Yes, that is one definition, but there's a whole nother definition, which is called the mind and body connection. And then I discovered I had this rug. Like it's a pretend rug, okay? But but this red rectangular rug. And I discovered there was a mountain underneath that rug. And that mountain I had to take on, because that mountain was everything I had just shoved underneath it, that it was easier to just dismiss it under the rug than it was to work through it. And now I know it's working through that instead of shoving it under and weeding and going through that mountain under that rug, which has allowed me to tap into a system that I learned, a 3-step system on checking on your emotions, where you're at, and are you where you want to be. Once I started to, because the coach had said, well, do you want to learn how to just work through your limiting beliefs, or do you really want to release them? And I'm like, well, I want the solution because the solution is the solution. And he says, okay, well, then presence is where the solution is. And I know, as simple as it is, but once I started to implement it, I was able to start to follow through on different actions that I wasn't able to follow through on for like 27 years. Like, opening the cupboard doors and shutting them, or turning off the lights, or knowing where my keys are, or, I'm still really not great with my glasses. I still like to let them lay around. But but it's just simple things like that. But to a survivor, as a head injury survivor, that was huge because my husband has said so many times, "Do you know how many times I wanted to write a letter to your rehab hospital and say, 'You did a really great job, but you didn't teach her to finish or follow through on anything.'" And I said, "Well, I was just lucky to be alive." He's like, "I know, and I can't be picky, so that's why I've never written the letter." But but when I am in the now, where you're doing, what you're doing. You will know where you
Mm,
place things. That's when you don't, that's, and when I misplace things, I'm like, oh, I wasn't present.
mm.
And it's just as a reminder, along with the reminders that I do have set on my phone that go off randomly through the day to make me check in with myself.
Okay, I lost you there for a moment, just a brief moment, but
Oh,
the last I heard was these reminders that you have on your mobile phone to come back to present. Do you not want to share with us what that three-step process is and
yes.
how you bring yourself actually back into center and ground yourself? Because if we just, reflect on our thoughts, that's where we are
Hmm.
ruminating in most of our day, and the same thoughts are on repeat, and it's
Yes.
it's accessing parts of our brain that is linked to a narrative, and
Yes.
sometimes the narrative, almost, we dramatize it, we add more to it, and some of it is true and others is actually an illusion. So what are some of those tricks or methods or tools or frameworks that you have used and have mastered that you can share with our audience as a technique to get them back to presence?
Well, for first of all, in Elkhart Tolle's The Power of Now, once you
Mm.
are aware that you're not in the now, you're aware, then you are in the now. Well, that just never felt like the switch got turned. So
Yes.
I now when I realize it, I usually take a deep breath. And
Mm.
just a breath will help empower you. It centers you.
Any
It's the
Any particular method? Because there's so many breath work
No,
techniques.
I
It's
just
just
take a
breathe in
deep
through the
breath.
nose and out through the mouth. As simple
Yeah,
as that.
yeah. I mean, the I yes, there are a lot of different breath works. I mean, I do a
Yes.
specific one when I meditate, but meditation is different than this. This is
Mm,
just to center me so that I can make a choice. And do I choose to keep feeling what or do I choose to keep experiencing what I'm experiencing? Because with that, for me personally, taking that breath empowers me that I can
mm,
then make
mm,
that choice of, no, I don't want to feel that way. And I have tried this over and over and over and over to make it wrong, but
mm.
it works. It just works.
And Janet,
And
even the breath, I know it's the first tool or the first technique, but breath also reminds us of the gift of life. And that brings us into presence almost automatically, because with every breath we are breathing and we are alive, and that should shift us into a space of gratitude.
yes, and it isn't a gift, or it's not promised. Every day isn't promised.
No.
So, I don't know about you, but I wake up and one of the absolute first things before my feet even hit the floor is I go into a gratitude prayer of thank you for the day,
Mm. Mm.
and
Yes.
putting my hands on my heart. And then the three-step system comes from a coach in the platform that I have my certification through. And I set random reminders on my phone, but you can have like paint a fingernail a different color, just something that's random, and you only do it on reminders. When you see the nail that's a different color, or the phone goes off, which is a little ding for me, um, I stop and I rate what am I feeling emotionally from 1 to 10. 1 is I want to kill myself, and 10 is it's blissful and glorious. And so you rate it. You don't judge it, you just rate it. And then you say, where am I feeling that? And it's usually in the front side of your body, between your stomach and your head somewhere. Let's just take you through it. I'll be like, or no, I'll finish and then I'll take you through. Like I'll do one, for example. Um, and then I describe it. I say it's in my chest. And then I describe what is that? What am I feeling? Not the emotion, but what is my body actually feeling at that moment? And then after I get done describing it, which takes like 30 seconds, I say, thank you for releasing that. I love you. I love you. I love you. So it looks like this. Okay, my ding. Okay, I'm 1 to 7. I'm feeling like a 7.
Mm.
I feel it right here in my chest. It feels radiant. It feels broad. It feels tingly. It feels light in color, but a little heavy in weight. Thank you for releasing that. I love
Mm.
you. I love you. I love you.
Sure. Just listening to you demonstrate that, gives me that sense of peace and tranquility. It's
That's
just really connecting to ourselves and listening to our bodies. And I like
mhm,
what you said. It's not about only the emotion, but where in my body am I feeling it? Because our body is our temple, our
mhm,
vessel that,
mhm,
conveys these messages when we're out of alignment with ourselves, and I think that it's if we can get into that pause, into the stillness, which
mhm,
most people fear, Janet. We liked the noise, we like the busyness.
mhm.
And
Yes,
so
yes,
getting to this to the pause is where the beauty is. You're saying that it brings you back into this moment now, which
yes.
immediately elevates your energy
Mhm.
to discern between what is true and what is exaggerated.
Yes, and also with my continuation of implementing
You
this
there?
in my am are you there? Can you hear me? Can you hear
Okay.
me?
You're back. You're back,
Okay. I didn't do anything, but okay. um
Janet.
yes, Anissa?
The universe and technology.
Okay.
I
I
hear you, then
didn't
you go away. But
I
you're back.
didn't
You're back.
okay. I have learned to be able to like literally pull my mind and body connection from my soul spirit. My soul spirit is made up, and yours too, everyone's soul and spirit is made up of God's unconditional love. And that is how we are all made in the like image of God. Because I used to wonder, how can we all be in the like image of God? We all look and act and whatever so different. How can we all be like God? What is God like? It's that love, and it's that love I experienced at my near death that I understand, and so I have that connection. And when you start to really be able to pull and see the lies and that the mind and the body are telling you, it just empowers you along with the presence. Because God didn't create us to live in the past. God did not create us to live in the future, but we need to live in the now, right here, right at this moment. And as my coach said yesterday, presence isn't being in the moment, presence is being the moment. It's not just, oh, yeah, I'm here. No, it's being the best you at that moment. And that's where we're created to live. And when you are right there, it's blissful.
Mm.
You can't stay there because we're human. I mean, we're human.
Exactly. Yes.
But we can make our best effort, especially when we realize we're not in alignment.
Mm.
That's when all the things that I just taught you empower you to bring you back. And I mean, and also I need to say this because I wrote this in the second chapter that I wrote for a best-selling author on Amazon. God bless you. And I truly believe this. Everything happens for a reason at its appointed time. And so that is my quote. God bless you. That is my quote that I will stand by. I googled it and no one had ever really ever said that, but it's the truth. Things do not happen before and they do not happen after they're supposed to. And we don't know the appointed time. So it does go back to that surrendering. We just are to make our best step as much as we can. And we can try to help people. We can try to do good things in the world. But ultimately, it's not our choice of it, whether it's going to work or not. I've done things longer ago that I'm only now seeing the fruits of it. And I don't have that timeline, but I'm going to be patient because I know that I'm here for a reason. And that reason is much bigger than me. And I'm here to help others. And I take that passionately, and I don't ever look under the bus for anything else anymore because that's not where I'm supposed to look.
I love what your coach has said. Be the moment. And the other thing that stuck out for me is everything happens in its appointed time. So our paths are already written for us.
Mm-hmm.
And we will either stay in suffering, and that suffering is not only our struggles, but our desires, our wants, our needs. And that's connected to what you said earlier on the ego, the egoic side,
Mm-hmm.
and the illusion of the control of those outcomes or those desires that we could craft in our paths. When actually, if it's not in our favor, only God, the higher power, the source, the divine, whatever you want to call it, is in control of that. And I mean, we come from different faiths.
Mm-hmm.
I'm born from the Muslim origin and you're Christian, but the one similarity and the fundamental that remains the same, we all come from the same source. We all have the same, well, we all have a soul blown into
Mm-hmm.
us by the
Yes.
same divine.
That's
And
why you are here. That's why you're able to breathe because you have because when you're at your funeral or after you've died, what is here? my coach has said this, and it always puts a visual in it. It's just a body. Your spirit of who you are is gone. It has
Yes,
left
yes.
that body, and once it leaves that body, it's done, which it makes my mind think, well, I had a near death, and so I did leave because it took a long time to understand. As
Yes.
dumb as it is, I did not understand I had a near death. I like many, like I want to say 20 years probably went by before I realized, oh, well, my body can't go there. So that means my soul went there, but my soul came back. And then here, um, not in 2024, but in 2023, there was another lady. I was at a vendor event. I was selling books, and I was talking with her, and here her daughter had had a near death experience, and I hadn't told her what Jesus had told me. And she said, "Janet, my daughter told me that Jesus told her she was going to be okay." And I got chills because that's almost that's exactly what Jesus told me. You're going to be okay. And then it's our choice whether we want to proceed or not. But I don't know about you, but I wasn't going to not listen.
But here's the thing. I wanna take this a little bit next level now because
Okay.
we don't always listen. We don't always heed the call and take on that quest, right?
Yes.
Because we're
Yes.
dealing with our inner protagonist. There's stuff that we need to deal with.
Mhm.
And until I mean, I just did a talk now last year around falling in love with our inner villain, the inner darkness,
Mhm.
because we are both light and we dark,
Yes, we are. We have
right?
a
We're living in
shadow.
a Yes, we're living in a polarized life of duality. And so there's always going to be two sides of the coin. Now, when we're not willing to go on this quest, accept our light, receive the light that's been given to us, how do we then embrace the parts of ourselves in order to, navigate towards that acceptance? Because we do have to deal with many things like feeling like an imposter in our own lives, which most people can relate to.
Yes.
Or when we are granted this greater purpose for our lives, we almost stay stuck in the environments that no longer serve us until the universe forces our hand and we have to,
Mhm.
in the appointed time,
Yeah.
accept that this has to happen now. So, in our last minutes, I want us to dabble into that realm of how you deal with the polarities and come bring that into center, knowing that you're both dark and light. I hope
Well,
that's not too much of a
no,
loaded
no, no,
question.
no, no, no. Well, I don't know how long it'll take me. I don't know where it's gonna go, but I do know what you're saying. Okay. So I trust. But I have learned one of the I've learned it from a combination of things from Louise Hay and from Mel Robbins. Probably those 2, and then whatever, I don't know, because I read a lot of things in life, but I truly believe that, and for myself, going to that mirror and looking in those eyes, like, truly look at you and start talking to that person. Talk to that spirit and that soul and listen, and it really starts with looking in that mirror and saying, "I love you." Those 3 words. Love is it's got so many layers, but it takes that. And taking just that 30 seconds to look in that mirror and look in those eyes is just the first step. Because that you'll eventually, with practice of doing it consistently every day, you will start to see and witness that there is light within each and every one of us. But the darkness can be witnessed when we're out or you're going through your day and you start to judge somebody because you see something. That's just a small example of the darkness. And as hard as it is, whatever you're judging them on, it's what you don't feel good about yourself. And so that's one way to start witnessing that there's a dark side. Also, evaluating through journaling. When something triggers you or upsets you or annoys you or whatever feeling, emotion you want to attack to it, you sit down and you write it out. What is going on? And why am I thinking this? Why am I feeling this? It eventually takes you back so that you will see synchronicities of trauma or programmings that you have taken on as a child that are still trying to rule you. And that's kind of like the dark the dark person of you, or the dark Janet. I used to call her the trauma Janet. But you know what? If I didn't have her, I wouldn't be who I am today, because she is the foundation and had the grit and had the determination and the drive to follow through, to take me on. We all need we're not you're going to have dark while you're here on earth. It's just part of life. It's only afterwards can you be in the full light. But I always look at it as, is this journey here is really just a preparation for the next. And so we need to learn things now. If we don't learn them now, then we're going to have work to do when we get to a lot of work that we're going to have to do to prepare us to be able to be with the kingdom forever. So how is that for an answer? I can't hear you, Anissa.
Mute. I was on mute there.
Okay, that was a simple fix. I'm like, oh no.
You know what? I have just all of a sudden since last night been feeling a little bit congested. So that's why I'm switching off every single time, because I'm coughing or I'm sneezing, as you would have noticed.
Yes, I've said
But
God
we
bless you a
carry
few
on.
times. So how is
So
that for an answer of light and dark?
I love it because it's that person, that smaller version, or the child within ourselves. And we have to be thankful and grateful for all the experiences that have shaped us so that we could become stronger and more empowered in the now. And
Mm-hmm.
often we want to, hide behind those parts of ourselves, or shame it, or feel guilty, or have disgust towards it. But how can we, when these are parts of ourselves, even if they weren't the best or in showing up in this world, and we're human after all,
Mm-hmm.
it's how do we integrate those parts of ourselves? How do we now take that and say, let's go into this world because we've been a bit more enlightened. We're not fully enlightened souls. I don't believe any of us will ever be
Mm-mm.
fully enlightened, but that's just my opinion. I think we strive to reach that point. And it
Mm-hmm.
takes a certain amount of grace. The
Mm-hmm.
grit you mentioned, I mean, we call this shifting from grudge, which is that resentment and
Mm-hmm.
darkness state, to moving into grit, but not grit from a position of ego, grit of being radically resilient and being willing to surrender
Mm-hmm.
even your strength in the moments of difficulty. Because I certainly can attest to, everybody seeing Anissa as a strong person, and I'm sure you have also probably been
Yes.
labeled, Janet, you are a powerhouse, a miracle, as you've
Yes.
mentioned. And we get all these labels and constructs that we get put into, and sometimes we don't want to be that. Sometimes I just want to embrace my villain side and be that person for that moment. But I also know it's going to emerge into something different, something more profound. But it cannot emerge into that until we give ourselves grace for all parts of who we are. And
Yes,
so the grace shifts us into gratitude, because then we're not, why did this happen to me? Then this experience of your accident is like, now I get it. This is
it
what
ha-
it's meant to serve me.
it
It
happened
had to happen.
it happened for me because I would not I would I can truly say I don't believe I ever would have dabbled into the self-help world, the personal
Mm,
development, the mindset. I mean, maybe I would have been exposed. I don't know. I didn't get to live through it. But that's
yeah.
okay. But it has set me up now on a mission that I am really passionate about. And
Mm,
and it's not, I mean, I still would like to achieve different things personally, but ultimately my goal is to do God's will for my life.
yeah.
I'm here to
That's
serve his
beautiful.
people. And he has called me because I also didn't realize how blessed I really was until I started this last year. I had hip surgery. I needed a new hip.
Mm,
And I got back into the therapy world that I start to really realize just how blessed, like where I was, I wasn't really supposed to get beyond laying in a bed at a nursing home for the rest of my life. Well,
mm,
God and I, we
mm,
had other plans. And and he gave me the law of attraction. I knew exactly what I didn't want. I knew exactly what I did want. I took the action, and then I thanked God every day for helping me achieve it, because I just knew it was going to happen. And it was
mm.
easier to do it then. And I've been searching, trying to bring that into this part of my life. And the other day, I have to fight for it, because if I don't learn how to fight through it, I'm not going to be able to teach it.
Yes.
And so
Mm. This is a story of victory. This is a story of resilience for me. It's about you becoming your own hero. It is tapping into the depths within yourself. How do you then, if we close of today's conversation, how would you encourage others to have the integration of the now whilst having to balance between whatever fears of the unknown of the future does play out in their lives, or whatever traumas or wounds from the past still ruminates in that narrative and that's on repeat within the mind?
I think that getting yourself in front of the mirror, because for a lot of the years I was in front of the mirror. I would do my makeup, I would do my hair, but there's looking at yourself, and then there's looking at yourself. Like I
Mm,
had said, starting with that, and then just like literally when you were just not, like you were like or you're thinking something you don't want to think, just literally stop and
mhm,
take that breath. It just a deep breath, just and then that it starts with simple little actions like that.
mm.
And
Okay.
and also it doesn't hurt. No, every every day do one thing that's out of your norm, just to see if you can do it. Spend 5-10 minutes on it. And if you don't get it accomplished, you still give thanks for it,
Mm.
because you
That's,
took time for you. And that is true self-care, is just taking time to help yourself grow in a different way. And it can be all realms of the spectrum, whether, like literally just, if you've never sang and you want to sing, just doing la 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 la. I mean,
so
yeah,
stretch yourself out of your comfort zone
yes, just
and don't
one
take yourself
time.
so seriously.
Yes. And you will start to realize that there's more to you than just this mind and this body. And
I
that, learning that, has probably been one of the most blessed things to realize, that that there is a mind body connection, but there's a whole nother piece of you that is absolutely perfect, and that person already knows what you can do, and they know where you can go, and they already exist inside of you. You just have to dig away every day. And when your eyes are raised to a new day, you give thanks and you take it on with grit and grace and tenacity and love. And if you're ever just, oh, another thing that I love doing this, just putting my hands on my heart. That helps me tap into who I authentically am. So probably breath, mirror, and hands on the heart are the three small, simple steps.
sure. I love that. So, in closing, I would say then that it is about coming into presence, connecting from the heart to your body, to your emotions, really discerning between what is true in your thoughts or in your emotions or what's beneath the emotions. And we can only do that when we truly intentionally look at ourselves. And that's beautiful because I too could not look in the mirror and say, I love you. I thank
Mhm.
you. I had to do the Ho'oponopono meditation. Those that
Yes,
know it,
I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you.
and I love you. And I sobbed profusely because really looking at myself
Mhm.
and facing all of me and accepting and loving and respecting all parts of myself, it
Yes.
doesn't happen overnight.
No.
It takes tons of work, but we can get there by small steps and those three areas that you mentioned. I want to thank you, Janet. Is there any last golden nugget you want to leave our audience with today?
I just wanna say life is not easy, but it's only as hard as what you allow it to be, and make sure that you take time, whether it's just sitting for 5 minutes every day in stillness and quietness, will open doors and make changes in your life that you didn't even know you could ever do. And it's hard to believe in yourself. Borrow someone else's belief until you can start looking in that mirror and
Mm.
truly believing that you love you. And
Ah,
you
that's
are love. You are made of unconditional love beyond your comprehension.
mm. I I receive all of that and I thank you. I'm going to end the live, but do stay with us just for the brief debrief. I'm really grateful for your presence, for your vulnerability, for your authenticity, for just being in your essence and flowing today with whatever has come through, and for trusting me as your host to allow yourself to share some of the things that you don't necessarily share on other podcasts. How blessed am I? So thank
Anisa,
you.
Anisa, I want to say thank you because I didn't do that at the beginning, and I am sorry. I do apologize for that because I usually thank because you, this is an opportunity for that you're allowing me to serve other people in the world that I never would be able to serve, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
With the hand on my heart, I'm going to end our live. I am grateful. Stay with me. And those that were here on Instagram, I was toggling in between. Thank you so much. And do come back to us next week again. We will continue the journey around shifting from grudge to grit, grace, and gratitude. Thank you so much. Until next week.